Deep in the quiet night shift at Denver Space Center, Tom Wilson sat at his radio desk, drinking his third cup of coffee. It was just another boring night listening to the usual space static. At least, that's what he thought. The first sign came at 3:27 a.m. His old radio equipment started making sounds he had never heard before. At first, he thought it was broken. 20 years on the job had taught him every normal sound these machines could make. This was different. "That's strange," Tom said to himself, adjusting his headphones. The sound wasn't random static. It had a pattern, like a song played very slowly. He reached for his phone to call his supervisor, but stopped when every screen in the room suddenly turned bright blue. It wasn't just in his room. All across Earth, at exactly the same moment, every screen lit up with the same blue light. TVs, phones, computers, even electronic billboards in Times Square. Everything showed the same thing. Then the message appeared. The words were simple but terrifying. "They are coming. You have 100 days." The message appeared in every language, in every country. Rich or poor, big city or small village. Everyone saw it. The world changed in that single moment. People rushed out of their homes, looking up at the sky. Strange lights danced above every major city. They moved in perfect circles, too smooth to be airplanes, too fast to be satellites. The lights stayed for exactly 1 hour, then disappeared all at once. World leaders called emergency meetings. The United Nations building in New York filled up at 4 a.m. Nobody knew what to do. Some wanted to prepare for war. Others talked about peace. Many just wanted to hide. But back in Denver, Tom Wilson noticed something nobody else did. The radio signal hadn't stopped. Under the main message, there was another pattern. While presidents and prime ministers argued about what to do, Tom started writing down numbers. The pattern repeated every 12 minutes. "This isn't just a warning," he mumbled, his hands shaking as he looked at his notes. "It's coordinates, locations in space." He sent his findings to NASA. Within hours, the biggest telescopes on Earth pointed to those exact spots in space. What they saw changed everything. Huge ships were moving through space, but they weren't coming toward Earth. They were running away from something. The images showed hundreds of ships, all damaged, all fleeing from the same direction. Sarah Chen, the lead scientist at NASA, was the first to understand what it meant. She called an emergency broadcast that reached every country. "The message isn't from the ones coming to attack us," she explained, her voice serious. "It's from the ones trying to warn us. Something chased them across the galaxy. Something destroyed their homes. And now, that something has noticed Earth." The world went quiet. People stood in streets, in offices, in their homes, all thinking the same thing. Whatever could scare an advanced alien civilization must be truly terrifying. Tom kept listening to his radio. The signal was getting stronger. Through his headphones, he began to hear something that sounded like crying. The aliens weren't just warning Earth. They were saying sorry. Sorry for bringing attention to our planet. Sorry for what was coming. But they had given Earth a chance. 100 days to prepare. More than they had gotten. More than the 12 other civilizations that had already been destroyed. The last part of the signal was the worst. Tom's computer translated it just as the sun was rising over Denver. The aliens had a name for the thing that was coming. They called them the Shadows. And the Shadows had never failed to destroy a civilization they targeted. As Tom walked out of the Space Center that morning, he looked up at the sky. It looked the same as always, blue, peaceful, with a few clouds floating by. But now everyone knew something was coming. Something that had destroyed entire worlds. Something that thought Earth would be an easy target. What the Shadows didn't know was that humans were different. While other civilizations had tried to run, tried to hide, or tried to make peace, humans had a long history of doing something else when threatened. Humans fought back. The 100-day countdown had begun. And Earth was going to be ready. It started with a child's toy in Tokyo. 6-year-old Yuki was playing with her electronic puppy when it started speaking in a language that wasn't programmed into it. Instead of barking, it transmitted parts of the alien signal. Scientists would later discover that cheap toys could pick up the hidden messages better than million-dollar equipment. Around the world, similar stories emerge. Old radios playing by themselves, car GPS systems showing maps of distant stars, even toasters printing strange symbols in the burn marks on bread. The shadows hadn't noticed, but their target's warning signal was hiding countless secrets in the electronic noise of everyday life. Dr. Sarah Chen led the global team trying to understand these messages. In her lab at NASA, she had gathered an unusual group: Tom Wilson, the radio operator who first found the pattern, a teenage gamer who decoded part of the signal through her PlayStation, and an elderly mechanic who heard the messages through his old truck radio. "The aliens aren't just warning us," Dr. Chen announced during a midnight meeting. "They're teaching us. Every broken signal, every glitch, every strange electronic behavior. It's all part of a desperate lesson." The team worked day and night, piecing together the puzzle. They learned that the shadows weren't just destroyers. They were collectors. They kept one city from each civilization they destroyed, preserved in giant space museums, a trophy of their power. But the most important discovery came from an unexpected place. In a small village in Africa, a group of children playing with an old satellite dish found something that all the world's governments had missed. When they connected the dish to a battery-powered TV, they saw images of the shadows' previous attacks. The images showed everything. The shadows always followed the same pattern. First, they tested each civilization's defenses with small attacks. Then they offered peace, promising to spare those who surrendered. Finally, when a planet was at its most hopeful, they struck with their full force. "Look at this," Tom said, pointing to the videos. "Every civilization they destroyed. They were all more advanced than us. The Centaurians had cities in space. The Proxima had ships that could fold space. The Arcturus could build stars." Dr. Chen nodded slowly, a strange smile forming on her face. "And that's exactly why we have a chance." She called an emergency meeting with world leaders. On the screen behind her, she showed images of the shadows' perfect victories, their flawless strategies, their unstoppable weapons. "The shadows have won every time because they've only attacked advanced civilizations," she explained. "They expect technology to fight technology. But humans," she paused, looking at each person in the room, "humans are still primitive enough to be unpredictable." In the back of the room, Tom remembered something from his military days. "The most dangerous enemy isn't always the most advanced one," he said. "It's the one with nothing to lose and everything to learn." The room fell silent as understanding spread. Humans had something no other civilization had when the shadows attacked: the perfect mix of technology and raw survival instinct. Advanced enough to understand the threat, but primitive enough to think in ways the shadows had forgotten. Then came the breakthrough that changed everything. A group of historians working with the decoded signals found a pattern. Every civilization the shadows had destroyed had tried to match their technology, to fight them on their terms. None had thought to use simpler solutions. As if to confirm their discovery, a final message came through every device on Earth: "Don't fight like us. Fight like you." The aliens who sent the warning had given humanity its greatest weapon: the knowledge that being less advanced might actually be an advantage. The shadows had spent millions of years perfecting their tactics against advanced civilizations. They had no idea how to handle a species that still remembered how to fight dirty. Dr. Chen looked at her unusual team: the radio operator, the gamer, the mechanic, the village children connected by video call. "The shadows think they're hunting us," she said. "They don't realize they finally found the one species that still remembers how to be dangerous." In the sky, the strange lights appeared again. But this time, Earth was ready with a plan that no advanced civilization would ever think to try. Sometimes, the best way to fight the future was with the past. The countdown showed 88 days remaining. And humanity was about to teach the shadows a lesson about underestimating primitive species. Nobody expected the world's first unified defense plan to come from a group of video game designers. But when Dr. Chen called for creative solutions, the Gaming Defense Initiative from South Korea showed everyone a new way to think about fighting the shadows. In games, you don't always beat a stronger enemy with better weapons, explained Min-ji Park, lead designer at Seoul Digital Labs. She stood before the UN Security Council, using Minecraft to demonstrate humanity's strategy. Sometimes, you win by changing the rules of the game. The plan started simple, but grew into something the shadows would never expect. While the aliens who warned Earth had run away, humans decided to do something different. They would make Earth disappear. Operation Ghost Planet began in Rio de Janeiro. Engineers discovered they could use the city's massive carnival light systems to create visual distortions that made entire buildings seem to vanish. Soon, every major city was installing similar systems, but bigger and better. In the Australian outback, Aboriginal leaders taught military forces ancient techniques for hiding in plain sight. These methods, thousands of years old, were combined with modern technology. The result: entire armies could move without being detected by even the most advanced scanners. Meanwhile, in the oceans, something even more incredible was happening. Marine biologists had realized that deep-sea creatures had perfected the art of invisibility millions of years ago. Study of squids and jellyfish led to a breakthrough, a way to bend light around objects using nothing but water and natural proteins. Dr. Chen's team worked around the clock, but not in secret underground bases like in movies. Instead, they worked in plain sight, in shopping malls, public parks, and school gymnasiums. The shadows would be looking for hidden military bases, not kids practicing disappearing acts in playgrounds. The best hiding spot, Tom Wilson said during a global broadcast, is the one that looks exactly like what the enemy expects to see. India's Bollywood film industry played a crucial role, using their expertise in grand illusions and special effects. They created massive fake cities, perfect targets for the shadows to discover. Below these movie-set cities, real preparations continued. But the most brilliant part of the plan came from an unexpected source, a retired librarian in Canada. She pointed out that the shadows would expect humans to either fight or hide. "So let's do both," she said, "but not in the way they think." The plan had 3 layers. First, the obvious defense: military bases, weapon systems, and planetary shields. All of it real, but all of it designed to fail spectacularly. The shadows would see exactly what they expected: a primitive species trying desperately to copy advanced alien technology. Second, the hidden defense: the disappearing cities, the invisible armies, the underwater bases. But even these weren't humanity's true defense. They were just another layer of deception. The third layer was the real plan, hidden in plain sight, so obvious that no advanced civilization would ever consider it. Earth's true defense was based on something humans had perfected over thousands of years: the art of making the enemy defeat themselves. As the plan came together, something unprecedented happened. For the first time in human history, every country worked as one. Old enemies shared secrets. Former rivals protected each other's people. Humanity had found unity not through peace, but through the need to survive. The warning aliens sent another message: "We don't understand. Your cities are still visible. Your weapons are primitive. Why aren't you running?" Tom Wilson, sitting at his radio desk in Denver, smiled as he sent back humanity's first response to an alien message. The response was simple: "Come and see." In orbit, the first of the Shadow's scout ships appeared, 72 days before their scheduled arrival. They watched Earth preparing exactly as expected, badly. They saw humans making all the same mistakes other civilizations had made. Everything looked perfect. Too perfect. As the scout ships prepared to report back to their fleet, they didn't notice the small changes happening on Earth. Cities shifting slightly each day. Mountains that weren't quite where they should be. oceans that seemed deeper in some places and shallower in others. Dr. Chen gathered the world's leaders for one final meeting. On screens around the room, they watched the shadow scouts scanning Earth's pathetic-looking defenses. "They think they're watching us," she said, "but we're the ones putting on the show." The countdown showed 71 days remaining. Earth wasn't running, wasn't hiding, and wasn't fighting. At least, not in any way that the shadows would recognize. Instead, humans were doing what they did best, turning a game they couldn't win into a completely different game. The trap was set. Now they just had to wait for the shadows to step into it. The day the shadows arrived early, Earth was ready, not with advanced weapons or shields, but with the biggest magic show in human history. It began in Times Square. The giant screen showed terrified crowds running from alien ships, but the people on the streets below were actually following carefully rehearsed paths, creating patterns visible only from space. Bollywood choreographers had trained the whole world in what they called the panic dance. The Shadow's main fleet appeared over New York first, massive ships that blocked out the sun. They expected to see chaos. Instead, they saw exactly the kind of chaos they wanted to see. Everything is proceeding according to their predictions, Dr. Chen reported from her new command center, a busy McDonald's restaurant in Chicago. The world's military leaders weren't hiding in bunkers. Instead, they operated from coffee shops, laundromats, and food courts, places so ordinary that the Shadow's advanced scanners simply ignored them. The first phase of the Shadow's attack began with their standard pattern, disabling Earth's communications. Their virus spread through every satellite and computer network. Screens went dark worldwide. The Shadows waited for panic. Instead, something strange happened. Old technology started working. Ancient radio sets, telegraph machines, and even children's toy walkie-talkies crackled to life. Tom Wilson, now operating from a hot dog stand in Central Park, sent out the signal. Operation Retro is go. The Shadows watched in confusion as humans switched to technology so old it was immune to their attacks. Kids on bicycles carried messages between cities. Morse code clicked across restored telegraph lines. Grandmother's old tube radios broadcasted battle plans. But the real trap was yet to spring. The Shadows launched their second phase, atmospheric control. Their ships created artificial storms over major cities, expecting to drive humans underground. This was the moment Earth had waited for. Release the bubbles, came the order from a karaoke in Tokyo, where Japan's defense minister sang pop songs while coordinating the global response. Millions of children around the world opened bottles of soap bubbles. But these weren't ordinary bubbles. Scientists had modified the simple toy with a special compound. As the storm winds caught them, the bubbles rose into the clouds. The Shadow's own weather control system spread them perfectly. Each bubble contained a tiny amount of a harmless protein copied from deep-sea creatures. As they popped in the upper atmosphere, they created a bioluminescent layer that looked like a primitive energy shield. The Shadow's sensors registered it as pathetically weak. "They're charging their main weapons," reported a teenager in Mumbai, watching through a modified PlayStation controller that could now track alien energy signatures, just like the game simulations predicted. The Shadows positioned their fleet for their favorite tactic, the Hope Crusher. First, they would offer peace, wait for Earth to celebrate, then strike when morale was highest. It had worked 12 times before. Their peace message boomed across the planet. "Surrender now, and we will spare one city of your choice for our museum." The response came not from world leaders, but from every child's toy, every old car radio, every speaker on Earth. Millions of voices joined in a song, the same simple tune that had hidden in the warning alien's original message. The Shadows hesitated, confused by this inappropriate response to their serious offer. That moment of confusion was all Earth needed. The oceans began to bubble, but not from underwater bases rising as the Shadows expected. Instead, marine biologists had recruited whales and dolphins to create specific wave patterns. These patterns disrupted the shadow's sensors just enough to hide what was really happening on the surface. Farmers' irrigation systems sprayed water into the air worldwide, creating tiny rainbows everywhere. These rainbows weren't for beauty. They were part of a global optical illusion. The shadow's ships suddenly couldn't trust their own eyes. "Deploy the final," Dr. Chen ordered from her booth at McDonald's, calmly dipping a French fry in ketchup. Every city on Earth seemed to shift position slightly, like a global mirage. The shadow's computers tried to compensate, recalculating their targeting systems, but each recalculation made things worse. Their perfect formation began to waver. Then came humanity's masterstroke. People everywhere opened their umbrella, special umbrellas designed by origami artists and engineers. When opened in specific patterns, they created an optical effect that made the ground appear to be the sky and the sky appear to be the ground. The shadow's fleet, for the first time in their history, found themselves completely unable to trust their sensors, their eyes, or their tactical computers. They had prepared to fight primitive weapons. Instead, they were fighting soap bubbles, rainbows, umbrellas, and songs. "Now they have two choices," Tom Wilson announced from his hot dog stand. "They can either fire blindly and risk hitting their own ships, or—" The Shadow Fleet began to retreat, pulling back to regroup and reassess. They had never encountered a species that fought with children's toys and public performances. As their ships withdrew to a safe distance, Dr. Chen finally stood up from her McDonald's booth. "Phase 1 complete," she said, wiping ketchup from her fingers. Now for the real surprise. The countdown now showed 65 days until the Shadow's original arrival date. But Earth had changed the game. The hunters had become the confused, and the primitive planet had turned out to be anything but simple. The real battle was about to begin, and humanity's greatest weapons would turn out to be the things the Shadows considered too primitive to be dangerous: imagination, creativity, and the ability to turn a losing game into a winning performance. The Shadows returned with what they thought was an unbeatable strategy. They split their fleet into 13 groups, one for each civilization they had destroyed. Each group carried weapons specifically designed to counter advanced alien defenses. But Earth was done pretending to be advanced. The battle began in the most human way possible, with a cat video. Every screen on Earth started playing the same clip of a kitten chasing a laser pointer. The Shadows ignored this as primitive entertainment. That was their first mistake. "Release the red dots," Dr. Chen commanded from her new headquarters, a busy bowling alley in Milwaukee. The sound of falling pins covered the sound of her giving world-changing orders. Millions of laser pointers, coordinated by the same teenagers who had mastered multiplayer gaming, created a dazzling web of red dots in the sky. The Shadow's automated targeting systems, designed to track energy weapons, went haywire trying to follow every dot. Who would have thought? Tom Wilson laughed from his position at a mini golf course in Denver. Cats and laser pointers would save the world. But that was just the beginning. The Shadows launched their infamous mind control waves, expecting to turn Earth's population into confused slaves. Instead, they found 7 billion minds already trained in chaos. "Execute Operation Social Media," came the order from a food truck in Seoul. People worldwide started acting out their favorite TikTok dances, shared their breakfast photos on Instagram, and posted memes about the invasion. The Shadow's psychic scanners, trying to make sense of human thoughts, encountered the pure chaos of internet culture. Their mind control systems crashed, overwhelmed by cat memes and dance challenges. The Shadows then tried to deploy their gravity weapons, which had crushed the mighty space cities of the Centaurians. But humans had prepared for this too. "Activate the bouncy castles." The order came from a birthday party in Sydney, where Australia's top generals celebrated with cake while coordinating the defense. Inflatable bounce houses, modified with special air pressure systems, popped up in every city. When the gravity weapons hit, instead of crushing buildings, they created the biggest bounce party in history. Millions of people literally bounced away from danger, turning what should have been a devastating attack into a global celebration. The Shadow's fleet commanders watched in horror as their perfect formations were disrupted by the most primitive of human inventions, rubber chickens. These weren't ordinary toys. They were filled with a special foam that absorbed and reflected radar signals. Every squeeze created a phantom target on the Shadow's screens. "Now for the music," announced Dr. Chen, rolling a perfect strike on Lane 7. Every stadium, every phone, every speaker on Earth began playing Baby Shark. The simple children's song, repeated millions of times, created a unique wave pattern that interfered with the Shadow's communication systems. Their ships could no longer coordinate their attacks. But humanity's greatest weapon was still to come. As the Shadows prepared their planet-cracking bombs, Earth launched Operation Friendship. Send in the Grandmas. The order echoed from a knitting circle in Stockholm, where Scandinavian defense ministers pretended to argue about yarn patterns. Thousands of grandmothers worldwide began broadcasting cooking recipes, life advice, and concern about whether the alien invaders were eating enough. The Shadow's communication channels were flooded with chicken soup recipes and gentle scolding about their poor posture in their battle formations. Some Shadow ships actually began to list to one side, their crews unconsciously straightening their backs. The Shadows tried to counter by deploying their fear toxins, chemicals that had broken the will of the mighty Arcturus warriors. Instead, they found humans were already masters of dealing with anxiety. Launched the comfort response, came the call from a pillow fort in Toronto. Millions of therapy apps activated at once. Meditation podcasts broadcast on all frequencies. The fear toxins met a wall of positive affirmations and breathing exercises. Some Shadow ships reported their crews stopping mid-battle to try yoga. The final phase of the battle began, when the Shadows launched their ultimate weapon, the reality twister, which had shattered the morale of 12 civilizations by showing them their worst fears. "Perfect timing," Dr. Chen said, finishing her bowling game with a spare. "Show them what humans do with our fears." Every streaming service on Earth began playing horror movies. Halloween decorations appeared on houses. People put on costumes. When the reality twister hit, it found humans not only facing their fears but turning them into entertainment. The Shadow's weapon backfired spectacularly. Instead of being terrorized, humans began rating and reviewing the fear visions like movie critics. Some even complained that their apocalyptic visions weren't scary enough and demanded better special effects. In orbit, the Shadow's mighty fleet was in chaos. Their advanced weapons were being defeated by children's toys. Their perfect tactics were being disrupted by social media trends. Their fearsome appearance was being turned into memes. "Should we show them our real weapons now?" Tom Wilson asked, sinking a hole-in-one on the mini golf course's windmill hole. Dr. Chen watched the Shadow's fleet dissolving into confusion. Ships were bumping into each other, their crews distracted by viral videos and cookie recipes. Some had even started playing the Baby Shark song themselves. "No need," she smiled. "They're about to learn the hardest lesson in the galaxy. Never underestimate a species that turns everything, even fear itself, into entertainment." The countdown showed 60 days until the original invasion date, but the Shadows were already retreating, their undefeated fleet undone not by advanced weapons, but by the most basic aspects of human nature: our chaos, our creativity, and our ability to find joy even in battle. As their ships fled Earth's orbit, they left behind a message. "What kind of species are you?" The answer came back in the form of a clickbait headline: 13 reasons why the Shadows regret attacking Earth. Number 7 will surprise you. The battle was over. Humanity had won not by becoming more advanced, but by being impossibly, unbelievably human. Nobody expected the real chaos to start after the Shadows retreated. The galaxy, it turned out, had been watching Earth's battle through thousands of TikTok videos that somehow reached alien civilizations. Humanity had just become the universe's most viral sensation. The first sign of change came when a mysterious package arrived at Tom Wilson's mini golf course. Inside was an alien version of a YouTube play button with a message, "First species to defeat the shadows. Like and subscribe." "Well, this is new," Dr. Chen said, now running Earth's defense force from a traveling circus. She had found that acrobats were excellent at coordinating global strategies while doing trapeze acts. "We're not just survivors anymore. We're influencers." Alien ships began appearing in Earth's orbit, but not to attack. They came with camera crews. Earth had become the galaxy's hottest reality show destination. "You won't believe what these primitives did," became the most watched show in 12 galaxies. Aliens tried to copy human dance moves, failed to understand memes, and couldn't figure out why cat videos were so fascinating. But not everyone was happy about Earth's newfound fame. The shadows, humiliated by their defeat, decided to return with something new: a massive social media campaign. They started posting edited videos making their retreat look cool and intentional. Their hashtag #ShadowsLetEarthwin began trending across the galaxy. "Oh, so that's how they want to play it," said a teenager in Lagos who had become Earth's unofficial social media defense minister. "Let's show them how we handle online drama." Earth responded with a challenge that spread across the universe: the #ShadowDance Challenge. Aliens everywhere posted videos of themselves pretending to run away from bouncy castles and grandma's recipes. Even some young shadows secretly participated, much to their leader's horror. The shadows tried one last desperate move. They released their ultimate weapon, a reality-bending social media filter that had destroyed the confidence of entire civilizations. But they didn't count on human teenagers' experience with Instagram filters. "Is that all they've got?" asked a group of beauty influencers from Seoul. "We make better filters for our breakfast posts." Earth's counterattack was devastating. Wholesome content. The galaxy was flooded with videos of puppies, baby laughter, and random acts of kindness. The shadow's dark aesthetic couldn't compete with the power of cute animal compilations. Then something unprecedented happened. A young shadow posted a video asking for help with their makeup to look less intimidating. The response from human beauty gurus was immediate and overwhelming. "Honey, black smoke is so last millennium," a makeup artist from Brazil declared in a viral video. "Let's get you glowing." Dr. Chen watched from her trapeze platform as Earth's influence spread across the stars. "We didn't just beat them in battle," she observed while doing a triple flip. "We're changing how the whole galaxy thinks." The alien civilizations that had once run from the shadows began returning, but not as warriors. They came as students, eager to learn Earth's mysterious powers, how to turn fear into fun, how to defeat weapons with wisecracks, and most importantly, how to make the perfect cat video. Tom Wilson's mini golf course became an intergalactic tourist attraction. Aliens lined up for hours to experience the primitive joy of hitting a ball through a windmill. Some even started adding mini golf courses to their spaceships. But the greatest change came from an unexpected source. Young shadows started a rebellion, not with weapons, but with memes. They called themselves the Shadow Light Movement, trading their scary smoke effects for pastel colors and glitter. The old shadow leaders faced their worst nightmare: their own children becoming influencers. The fearsome shadow fleet was now full of ships decorated with fairy lights and motivational quotes. "Maybe we should tell them about teenage rebellion," Dr. Chen suggested, now teaching alien diplomats while walking a tightrope. "Nah," Tom replied from his now intergalactic mini-golf empire. "Let them figure that out on their own." The galaxy was transforming. Alien civilizations that had hidden in fear for millennia were emerging, armed with Earth's most powerful weapons, jokes, games, and the unshakable confidence that came from surviving thousands of years of their own embarrassing social media posts. But just as Earth was celebrating its cultural victory, a new message arrived. It came through every device in the galaxy, using the most primitive communication method possible, an intergalactic chain letter. "Forward this to 10 civilizations, or face the consequences." The message read: The anti-meme has awakened. Dr. Chen, hanging upside down from her trapeze, smiled. Finally, a worthy challenge. Earth's greatest power isn't our weapons or our wit, she announced to her circus audience of alien diplomats. It's our ability to take anything, even defeat, and turn it into a trending topic. The countdown reset, 30 days until the anti-meme arrived. But this time, Earth wasn't alone. They had an army of alien influencers, reformed shadows, and the most powerful force in the universe. Viral content creators ready to face whatever came next. The galaxy was about to learn why humans had survived so long on their primitive planet. Not because they were the strongest or the smartest, but because they had mastered the art of turning every disaster into entertainment, every defeat into a comeback story, and every end into a new beginning. And somewhere in the vast darkness of space, the anti-meme approached, unaware it was about to become the galaxy's next big thing. The anti-meme arrived exactly as the chain letter predicted, but not in the way anyone expected. It wasn't a weapon or a fleet. It was a virus that made everything boring. Across the galaxy, social media feeds turned gray. Memes lost their humor. Even cat videos couldn't get any likes. This, Dr. Chen declared from her newest command center, a busy water park in Florida, is the true test of humanity. The anti-meme's first attack targeted Earth's greatest weapon, its creativity. People found themselves unable to think of new jokes. TikTok dances became simple walking. Even grandma's recipes turned bland. But the anti-meme had made one critical mistake. It assumed humans needed social media to be creative. It had never experienced a power outage. Execute Operation Retro Fun, Tom Wilson commanded while hosting a pizza party in his mini golf course's arcade. The signal spread worldwide through the most primitive communication network ever created, kids playing telephone. Every electronic device on Earth shut down voluntarily. The anti-meme suddenly had nothing to infect. Instead, something magical happened. Humans remembered how to have fun without screens. Streets filled with children playing hopscotch. Parents taught kids card games. Teenagers rediscovered board games. The anti-meme watched in confusion as human creativity flourished without any technology at all. Phase 2, Dr. Chen announced, sliding down a water slide while coordinating global defense. Show them what humans did before electricity. Libraries worldwide opened their doors. People read books aloud in parks. Street performers put on shows. Shadow teenagers, who had never experienced non-digital entertainment, were fascinated. They began sneaking down to Earth to learn these ancient arts. The anti-meme tried to adapt, targeting human emotions directly. But it encountered something it couldn't process: interpretive dance. Flash mobs of dancers worldwide performed their feelings instead of posting about them. The anti-meme's algorithms crashed trying to calculate the meaning of synchronized swimming. Then came humanity's secret weapon, boredom itself. Humans had evolved with boredom, grown up with it, learned to turn it into creativity. When the anti-meme made everything boring, humans did what they always did. They made their own fun. Release the ultimate defense, Tom Wilson said, starting a conga line that stretched across continents. Every human on Earth began doing the most mundane things in the most ridiculous ways. People turned grocery shopping into musicals. Traffic jams became improvised comedy shows. Even waiting in line became an art form. The reformed shadows joined in, adding their own twist. Their natural gloom actually made everything funnier. A shadow trying to learn juggling became the galaxy's most entertaining sight, even without social media to share it. The anti-meme faced its final crisis when it encountered humanity's most powerful creation, dad jokes. These jokes were so intentionally unfunny that trying to make them boring actually made them funnier. The anti-meme's core programming began to glitch. Time for the final, Dr. Chen announced from the top of a water slide. Show them the true power of human boredom. Every human on Earth began doing absolutely nothing, just sitting quietly, staring into space. The anti-meme, programmed to make things boring, encountered a paradox. How do you make nothing even more nothing? As the anti-meme struggled with this philosophical crisis, something unprecedented happened. It began to laugh. Not a digital laugh, but a real one. The virus that tried to destroy creativity had accidentally discovered its own sense of humor. The anti-meme transformed. Its gray code turned rainbow-colored. Boring posts became surreal art. The virus that was supposed to end fun became the galaxy's first artificial comedy algorithm. "Welcome to the family," Dr. Chen said, as the former anti-meme joined Earth's intergalactic entertainment division, now specializing in computer-generated dad jokes. The galaxy celebrated with the biggest party ever, completely offline. Aliens learned the electric slide. Shadows practiced knock-knock jokes. Even the reformed anti-meme contributed by creating perfectly awkward silence at just the right moments. Tom Wilson's mini golf course became the site of the first intergalactic offline games, where advanced civilizations competed in thumb wrestling and rock-paper-scissors tournaments. But the best part came 3 months later, when the galaxy faced its next crisis, an invasion of hyper-intelligent math equations. Earth's response. They sent in the kindergarten teachers. As Dr. Chen watched from her new command center, now a bounce house on the moon, she smiled. "You know what makes humans truly unbeatable?" she asked, bouncing higher with each word. "We don't just survive challenges. We turn them into party games." The story of how Earth saved the galaxy became required reading in alien schools, but not as a military strategy guide. Instead, it was taught in art class, titled "How to Turn the Apocalypse into a Block Party: A Human's Guide to Creative Problem Solving." And somewhere in the vast universe, the Shadows Museum of Conquered Civilizations was converted into the galaxy's most popular amusement park. Its main attraction, a haunted house where visitors were scared by the most terrifying thing humans had taught the galaxy: the possibility of a life without Wi-Fi. The end.